to wait. We are so privileged to have Dushyant Savadia. If I've pronounced your name incorrectly, I so apologize. Who will
Not a
be
problem.
presenting on the Amber Alert that we have, the cutting edge technology that saves so many lives and help us track COVID and the issues and the impact in Jamaica. Just a background on our presenter. He is the founder and CEO of Amber Group. Is an internationally acclaimed global entrepreneur, eminent humanitarian, public speaker, and a technology disruptor, which is true, driven by a vision to give back. From ideation to products, he quickly transforms them into successful global ventures. His passion for constant innovation has ensured that his various enterprises are always placed on the forefront of cutting-edge technologies at Amber Group. Amber Group companies and their successes are largely attributed to Dushyant's keen sense of entrepreneurialism and his unstoppable passion to make his companies a formidable player in the global tech arena. Yet, at the core, to champion the charitable cause and giving back to the society through his humanitarian work under the Art of Living Foundation. So this is his way of helping us to battle the pandemic and to be more alert and to be more aware of the impact on the society and to be more responsive. We are so appreciative of your time that you're giving us, and therefore, so that we don't have you waiting any longer, I'll now hand over to the team who will be bringing up your presentation for you. Dushyant, thank you very much for being a part of the this engineering function, Engineers Week, and we look forward to hearing from you. Over to you.
Sure. Thank you so much, and thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to speak to all of you. As introduced, my name is Dushyant Savadia. I'm the founder and CEO for the Amber Group. We are a very diverse company with various products and various enterprises that we've launched in over 23 countries around the world. Amber Group as a whole, we employ close to 300 employees globally. We work across 4 continents, and we are a very large software development enterprise. That is what we do. We make software for large banks, for so on, and most recently you might have seen us in the news quite a lot more for the JAM COVID-19, which was developed by the Amber Group and donated to the government from the Amber Group. I'm not going to share a PowerPoint presentation because I believe in a heart-to-heart conversation. So let me speak to you all as Dushyant and my experiences around the subject that has been appointed to me this afternoon, which is big data and artificial intelligence in COVID-19 environment.
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, can you mute yourself? Thank you. So coming back to the COVID-19 situation, as I said, Amber Group has developed a substantial software that allowed immigration, that allowed quarantine management and so on. But let's talk about the role of big data and artificial intelligence. But let me first start with a very high level of understanding for ourselves what is big data and what is artificial intelligence. Both of them are very broadly used for a million things, but if you break it down, big data is nothing but bringing data sources together into a single repository and running algorithms on this data warehouse to create analytics and actionable business intelligence. That is what pretty much big data does for us. You have so many data sources these days that individual data source analysis is going to become impossible to correlate to the answers you want to derive. So the modern day big data, what it allows you to do is collect data from thousands of sources, aggregate all the data from everywhere, and bring it together into a single data lakes, data mart, or a data warehouse, whatever you call it, and then extrapolate intelligence out of that data set, correlating thousands of sources, and then assigning that data set to a particular action item. Same time, artificial intelligence is also broadly known. A lot of people misunderstand what artificial intelligence means. Artificial intelligence is nothing but a man-created machine that learns patterns of activities and then is able to make decisions without the need of human intelligence. AI is commonly used these days for predictive analytics and automation of processes, which can be significantly utilized to reduce costs and also improve the efficiencies of execution. So if you look at the big data analytics and artificial intelligence, what have they played a role in the COVID-19 situation globally? First thing, the big data and AI both was extremely well used in Southeast Asia at the beginning of COVID-19 itself. The rapid spread of COVID-19 has brought together doctors, researchers, data scientists, all of them to find a solution. But even to find a solution, they had to figure out the origin of the problem by itself. So scientists use quite a lot of sophisticated technologies of big data analytics and machine learning to look at all the patient records from the hospitals, track the existing patterns of illnesses versus the new pattern of illnesses that were emerging, and identify that here's the new set of patterns that have emerged in the health environment, and this new set of pattern was unexplained. And because this new set of data was unexplained in correlation to the existing data sets, we knew that there was a different virus, and further research established it was COVID-19. So it was the utilization of big data over the medical records from the past in line with the current records, which created the understanding of the phase where we detected that there is a new virus called COVID-19. So the big data role in COVID-19 aids at the start itself as a first step in the detection mode. Big data detected some unusual pneumonia cases in Wuhan in December 2019, and using that big data algorithm that pulled data from variety of sources, the algorithm analyzed data from health records, airline tickets, government notice, news reports, and disease networks to predict the rise of that illness itself. The second phase of it was analyzing the spread, where big data and artificial intelligence both was used. Using airline ticketing data, big data has provided vital information of the spread between cities or countries. Initially, when the outbreak happened in China, the way they could track it, trace it, also by utilizing who traveled from where and following that trace and track methodology of the airline tickets issued to individuals who moved between cities and countries. Apart from this, mobile phone data was also used for tracking where the virus might have spread. Location statistics of people and early adapting countries like Singapore, Hong Kong, China, they all went into GPS location tracing much more faster than the rest of the world, that allowed them to identify the issues, the gaps, the risks, and where to focus on in terms of reducing the aftermath of the spread. And then if you look at what big data really did, the big data tools analyzed disease data and information, also connecting them to the population of senior citizens as well, who were at risk of contracting coronavirus virus too. So the algorithms and tools can track these people down to their exact location of where they live, keeping in mind also the factors of obesity and diabetes and all the other critical illnesses that COVID-19 can affect to these vulnerable persons with some pre-existing medical diseases. So big data allowed the governments to utilize the correlation of data from the medical records to travel records to the ongoing spread, and also start managing the risk based on that analysis that was available as reports. And by utilizing the location data on their smartphones, people could be alerted that they have been exposed to the virus. Data visualization tools have been developed that uses GPS data to alert users around about the locations of COVID-19 cases. You would know that in the recent time, Bluetooth technology was used, GPS technology was used. All of this was used only for one reason, is to identify lots and lots of data and tracing the data back to persons if they have visited this. So let's say, for example, you visited Lo Shushan supermarket, and the data revealed in the back-end processing that there are 1,000 people who attended Lo Shushan, and eventually the medical record stated that one of the persons had COVID-19 who have visited Lo Shushan. Automatically what it did, it automatically sent messages to the health department to identify these 1,000 people and immediately connect with them and put them under testing, and then eventually over to quarantine or home isolation. So all of this could not have been done without enough adaptation of big data analytics and without the adaptation of artificial intelligence also. Now, artificial intelligence also started predicting that, okay, based on the number of people who visit certain areas, the likelihood of the virus spreading in these areas, these communities, and these particular vulnerable age group is going to be greater. And countries who have utilized that data wisely and implemented actions on top of the data have managed to curtail the spread and limit the spread greater than the rest of the countries who just kept it all open-ended and let what happen happen. So apart from this, big data analytics and AI both cannot serve their purpose without proper dashboards, which we call as business intelligence dashboards these days, you know, as Tableau and MSBI, which is Microsoft Business Intelligence. All of them have come together. Google, all of them have built dashboard that allow you to see the progress of the virus, of the illnesses, the recovery, deaths and locations. All of this was possible also because of this big data translated into a proper dashboarding tool that allowed citizens and concerned parties like operational healthcare systems, the police force, the various regulatory bodies who were assigned to reduce the spread, all of them could possibly predict the hotspots better. The health authorities got advance warning better, illustrative scenarios of what could happen if the spread continues this way. All of this was actually managed and gathered together because of the ability of this tracking dashboards. Another crucial big data process used against COVID-19 is the Outbreak Analytics. If you actually go to the JAN COVID-19 website, you would actually see the world map where we are pulling data from across the world, from every single country, using CDC, WHO as source information, but pulling all that data into Jamaica, into that engine, and you can hover over the map and put your mouse anywhere across the world, and you can see the number of live cases, you can see the number of deaths, number of recovered, and the cumulative spread over time too. Now, all of this was again possible because of this ability to handle that much of data through big data, but then also we have evolved that data into predictive analytics, so we know which community is getting more into a bigger risk zone as well. And then handling risks is the final stage of it, or the second last stage of it, where big data and AI can play an important role in analyzing screening data of patients and connecting it with the unnamed health issues of hospitalization patients. The result of this analysis will help in determining the key risk factors too. So as more and more data is fed into the big data programs and tools, the accuracy of risk predictions will also increase. Google's DeepMind artificial intelligence system uses big data right now to understand the virus by analyzing its characteristics. This will help doctors to develop drugs and treatment plans too. So that there is a lot of all the vaccinations that we are talking about that are being built and are in the process is using mammoth amount of big data analytics, characteristics analytics, and produced into various analytics tools. And then also AI is deployed on top of that to make fundamental decisions on scenarios which are simulated as risks. So big data and AI in COVID-19 is the way forward in securing our future. After this global pandemic is resolved, let's say in a year's time or 2 years' time, everybody's got the vaccine, but that's not going to be the end of it. There will be COVID 2021, there will be COVID 22, COVID 30, there is yellow fever, there is dengue, there all sorts of diseases prevail in the world. So after this global pandemic is resolved, big data can help the governments to prevent and battle against future outbreaks too. The very fact that this pandemic has taken every single business out of their comfort zone and created every business, every government institution to think technology, to adapt technological innovations, to harness the power of data itself is a testimony of what this pandemic has done globally. Machine learning will mimic the ability of humans to compute certain volumes of data much more faster, giving precise intelligence and insights for action. So as much as the virus has impacted a global economy, Jamaica is not spared. We all know our economy is contracted by 18%, and it may not further deteriorate based on how the spread continues. But as Amber, we are now assisting the banks with big data analytics and generally digitizing the economy across the Caribbean and deploying artificial intelligence to create better working environment for teams, for the businesses, from vendors to customer experience. Everything has to be catered within that bucket. We're currently working with several banks, large institutions to build their data warehouses that facilitate better understanding, analysis, and execution of their business through a scientific approach, utilizing data versus, okay, let's do this marketing, let's do this, let's do that. And then end of the day, all of that is sunk cost and the business does not see much return because none of these actions are propelled scientifically through data. So today's big data and AI has pretty much encapsulated marketing, sales, churn and retention, fraud, risk, compliance. All of this can be handled by big data, by AI, and significantly ahead of time, alerting businesses what to do as an actionable insight rather than waiting for things to go wrong and then trying to automate processes to reduce your expenses and so on. So providing intelligence which can be actioned is the role of AI, is the role of big data, and that is where the world is going. And this outbreak has certainly taught us as Jamaicans as a nation that our technology achievement has to be greater in this year than any other year ever needed, because this will become the fundamental way to move forward. End of the day, everything boils down to just one thing: bringing results. How soon, how fast, how quickly, and how economically you can bring results to the current situation, whether it is a pandemic, whether it is business, whether it is engineering, whether it is manufacturing, whether it is retail, regardless of the industry, everything needs an element of digitalization and utilization of data and intelligence on top of that data, creating the predictiveness to guide as a mentor to the businesses, as businesses or as government, or as strictly speaking for COVID-19 also. Everything is boiling down to just one thing now: how soon, how quickly we can produce results so we can open up the economy, we can keep our life safer in the country, and we contribute towards a national growth. So with these few words, I would like to thank you all, and I'm open for any questions you may have on your side.
Oh, thank you very much, Dushyant. Okay, I think I'll go first while my team members feed the questions. It is nice to understand where the government got that 1.5 million persons to be infected. I suspect that you were in that back end, working the calculation out, analyzing the data to say, based on where we're going, you're projecting approximately 1.5 million of Jamaicans will be infected with COVID-19 by the time this pandemic is under control. So I suspect some big data calculations were in the back end of that, looking at all of the trends. What I would want to know, Dushyant, is talk to us about the security measures in place for privacy, because I think the world is saying, okay, we need to give you the data. We need to be able to analyze the data, but we don't want persons to be tracking our behavior to the point where they can tell me before I reach the bus stop, I'm going to go to the bus stop. And therefore, behind there, you have persons who are not so altruistic, who would want to use the information for other reasons. So in terms of the security features behind the big data collection, I'm sure there are some safeguards that you have in place that you built your platform on, that you want to give some of us assurance. Go ahead.
100%. And thank you for that question. And I think at this time, I would welcome this as a very wise question, because this is the perception. And unfortunately, because some people who have, how do you say this? Because some people have misutilized the data and done things that they should not be doing with it, has created a fear in people to actually participate in providing data for the growth of economy, for the growth of better management of the nation, and also for the growth of economy. So you're absolutely right in saying that security is a key to everything that is done. If you notice, the modern server setups, whether it is AWS or it's Azure or it's IBM or on-premise data structure, the privacy of data has become forefront of everything, where consumers have a choice. For example, so when you do come into the country and you load your certificates and you put your app, a certain information which should not be stored for more than a period of time, the systems are designed by privacy. There is a big shift in paradigm how privacy is done. In most cases, software developers would build a software and then see what privacy measures they want to put. But the modern day software development warrants that you build the software, and it's called design by privacy. So the design itself has privacy. Let's say GDPR now is the highest standard of privacy across the world. That means as a customer, a year later, you decide you don't want any of your data to be stored anywhere. then by right, you can write to the data protection officer of the business or the government institution and say to them, listen, I don't want any of my data stored. And the system architecture has to be designed that way that when I click a button, it removes your data completely off the system. So yes, the entire system is structured, organized with privacy at forefront. None of that data is stored on a risk environment. It is owned by the government and utilized to manage the pandemic.
Okay, thank you. And you know, it's interesting, before you came on, we had Richard Pandui from Separate on, and he was talking about productivity and how we can pivot from COVID. We also presented on Industry 4.0. And we're thinking now that as an institution, JIE needs to get in the business of a task force, how we can get Jamaica back in the game in terms of Industry 4.0. And I suspect big data collection is going to be one of those places that will move us forward. And therefore, I'm putting that off on the table to you now, that whenever we call the team together for Industry 4.0, how we can use your data to say, okay, farmers, this is where we're seeing the lack in terms of produce. This is where we want you to go in terms of agricultural development. You'll be on board. There's an opportunity there for us to work together as a private partnership with the public sector to get us more productive. So I'm very happy. COVID might have brought you to the forefront, but guess what? We will be able to utilize your service for Jamaica to be more in the game and to much more productive, because I suspect this is where we need to go. And it's good because then a lot of the industries now are saying, what do we need to do? Where do we need? And you are apparently one of the linchpin in getting us where we want to go. So I want to say thank you. Melissa, do we have any questions? Because I'm sure we're over, and I'm sure persons are, it's a very informative presentation, and it's just with our appetite in terms of where we can go. We don't want to keep the panel, the participant out of the question and answer from where we are. While we're waiting, in terms of handling the risk and looking at AI intelligence and collecting data, is it something that you think, Dushyant, we need to start as part of our curriculum in school? We have not been teaching our children how to understand and analyze data, how to use the technology. So from the Amber Group, I know you said that one of your fundamentals is to help a country to grow, to be more productive. What are your plans in terms of ensuring that we are exposing the new generation to how AI can help us to be more productive?
So I can't divulge much information,
No problem.
but we are actually in the process of launching the Amber Coding Academy, where we are going to undertake responsibility to build a large pool of data engineers of our own in Jamaica. So look, I mean, we all know, if you look at where the job market is going, where engineering is going, where science is going, everything is connecting to data now. And unless data is not understood, the representation of data and the actionable insights that come out of data is what the society needs, whether it is health, whether it is tourism, whether it is defense, whether it is agricultural. We actually built a massive application for the farmers in Jamaica last year for the coffee farmers, where through AI and through proper software backups, the farmers would actually get an alert when to plant, when to give water, when to do what. So it's a massive backend build. So we have already done a lot of work in the agricultural field, but again, wherever we are invited, we want to make a contribution. So we've already done that. What is missing in the agricultural field is the utilization of IoT. We've not yet fully understood how Internet of Things can connect the missing gaps of data. For example, you can put a little device that actually will send you the moisture levels of the soil. So, and that is fed into the system in real time, and it analyzes and it tells the farmer exactly what to do. So we have a long way to go, but I am proud to say that as Amber, We have already taken the leap to get the farmers there, whoever we have been able to associate with.
Excellent, and that's a good calling card. I'm sure we're going to have persons knocking on your door. Melissa, we have a question.
Yes, there is one question. How can we ensure that the data being used ethically, and let me get it back. How do we ensure that we do not create a situation of job losses to AI, which would affect source of income for families?
Yeah, that's a very valid and a great question, and it is from anonymous attendee. So how can we ensure that data being used ethically? So let me answer that question first. Look, to me, business is all about working from a moral background. If people lose ethics, if people lose moral in a business, then we are not able to serve our communities better. As far as data collection is concerned, my dear friends, if you have a mobile phone, they know when you wake up also. If you have, like I said, everything around you is producing data. Everything. There is nothing around you not producing data. If you're wearing a smartwatch, somebody knows what your heart beats at, right? So data is there. Data is utilized at the moment mainly for marketing, mainly for sales, and it is somehow adding value to your life. Although, I would say that without your consent, nothing should be marketed to you. But utilizing the data ethically boils down to the business who's collecting the data and how their business ethics are in utilization of that data. And I'm sure now the regulatory bodies are becoming more and more aware of it. They're clamping down on businesses who are misutilizing data. Over the last 1 year, you would have seen in US how many companies have been called for and had to attend government meetings, and governments are making institutions answerable. How are you storing the citizens' data and what you're utilizing for? So it will, again, the government bodies will and are enforcing better regulations. That's how it will reach a point of being ethical, and it's the onus of the businesses also to use their data ethically also in benefit to the client, not against them. How do we ensure we do not create a job losses to AI? Listen, I feel humans are doing far too much. If you ask any individual their stress levels from work, they have no time for their families, no time for doing something they really wanted to do since childhood. You want to learn piano, you want to learn dance, you want to spend some time with your kids. Ask yourself a question: do you have the time? So I don't think AI will ever replace jobs, because AI is going to enhance the quality of time, the quality of our life, rather than taking over our jobs.
I tell you, that was a perfect way to close this. I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. And therefore, team members, now we have solution persons on the line, and we have now gotten to a point where we know where we can call for help, and it is looking good. The future is looking good for Jamaica. And in terms of where we go as engineers, now you know who you can call, right? And when we pull the task force together with the manufacturers and the engineers, I've been knocking on Amber Group's door to say, send someone over, right? Obviously, it will be a business opportunity for everybody, but guess what happened? Jamaica will benefit out of all of this. I want to thank you again for coming at a short notice, for giving us a talk. I mean, it was better than a presentation. This was a good talk, right? It opened us up to Internet of Things. You're correct. Even just waking up, they can tell you when you wake up. So we just need to just harness that data and move with it. And from the engineering standpoint, it was greatly appreciated. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Absolute pleasure.
Thank you very much. Engineers on the call, it has been a really good morning. We have learned so much, and we now have ideas, and we have movers who can help us to grow Jamaica. On behalf of JIE, thank you for participating, and I look forward to seeing everybody tomorrow morning when we continue the conference. Have a good day, everyone.